So let's talk about everybody's favorite music mogul, good old P-Diddy. I got all his albums. He's my favorite rapper. I'm just kidding. I never liked him. I could think of maybe one song that I thought was decent. It's sure enough. It's Bad Boys for Life. I guess that's his mantra at this point, and well, he's definitely following through with it. That's for sure. Except in this case, he's a bad man. Been a bad man for a long time. But anyways, before I get into present day, let's go back in time a little bit here, and let's talk about the actual legends. Like Pac and Biggie. Did he get the Pac shot? No, he definitely did not. But did he put a hit out on Tupac? Well, there's a very good chance. And if anything, if you listen to D, the man that was in the car, when Pac got shot, he's the only one still alive. That between the four people that were in the car. Well, that tells a story. But here's the thing, those two groups in Vegas, they didn't even know each other were there. It just so happens they're both there trying to watch a Tyson fight, right? And sure enough, they just bumped into each other, and maybe Pac shouldn't have, tried to go after that guy. And well, it's basically over at that point because we all know who did it. We've known for a long time, and well, D definitely admits it at this point, but I've known for a long time. And yeah, it's definitely Orlando Anderson. There's no question about it. There's nobody else. There's no way. As for Biggie, well, there's no way Diddy had anything to do with that. He died based on retaliation for Pac's death. As for, who killed him and whatnot, who knows? My guess would be like Suge from jail, but who really knows at that point? That's definitely a pretty big mystery. And with that being said, well, let's, talk about present day because Diddy's got far more problems at this point, and he's guilty as hell. There's no question about it. And let me tell you why. There's a lot of patterns with this guy, and there's been patterns since who knows when for a long time. We definitely know he's violent. Does that make him a sexual predator? Well, that's hard to say, but it's definitely not a good guy, that's for sure. And as for these patterns, well, there's a lot of evidence against him at this point. These freak-off tapes, you got the 1,000 bottles of baby oil, and sure, we all love to buy in bulk, right, at Costco, but imagine, right, that's a lot of fucking baby oil, bro. Like, that's beyond bulk. That's just way too much, like a mini warehouse. It's sure that they found IV bags in his houses and all this stuff, and well, there's a lot of evidence there. And sure enough, the most damning thing is gonna be Cassie for sure, because without her, well, we don't even know about these freak offs and you name it. And guess what? When someone settles out of court as fast as he did, he's trying to sweep it underneath the rug. And another reason is, well, he doesn't want it to be public. And, well, he probably thought he'd lose in court, too. So better off just settling instead of taking a chance, right? Because if you're innocent, you're going to go to court. It's that simple. You're not just going to pay people off. That's what guilty people do. There's no question about that one. And well, another reason why he's going to be screwed is the feds. Their conviction rate. The feds don't screw around here. They got like at least a 90 to 95% conviction rate, and that's what they took their time on arresting him. They wanted to make sure they got all their ducks in a row because well, the feds don't want to look bad. Their job is to well, go and prosecute people. Say no state stuff. This is the federal government here. Everybody's worst nightmare, and well, their conviction rate's insanely high, and well. And his defense, from what I've heard, it's going to be garbage because basically there's one defense that they're going to try and use, and well, it's all consensual. Okay, well, let's say it is, hypothetically, right? Well, guess what? When it comes to sex trafficking, well, there's no consent. There's no way to consent to that. Like, it's like they seem to forget that, well, he's charged with sex trafficking as well. The freak offs are one thing, that's pretty damning, but imagine sex trafficking. There's no consent, there's nothing, right? So it just doesn't make too much sense. And here's the craziest defense I've heard of all. If he actually tries this, it's crazy because there's no way it's going to work. But let's say hypothetically it does, right? Well, they're going to try and make it where he's basically mentally incapable when he's too high, too drunk to really realize he's committing a crime, right? And let's say he actually gets out based on this, right? Well, that's a whole dangerous precedent right there because next year we're all going to be doing that. Oh, sorry for robbing this bank, I'm too drunk and, high and I don't know what I'm doing, right? Imagine, there's no way that's going to work. And that's just the crazy defense I've ever heard. And these are supposed to be the best lawyers? They could just, you might as well just admit he's guilty because there's no question about it. And, geez. And then we got other people, like, got some more passion back in the day. And while this isn't like sex trafficking or anything like that, but look at Usher and Bieber, for example, especially Usher. He's talking about nowadays, doesn't really say too much about it, but you know what? Puffy camp, right? You don't want to send his kids to Puffy camp. Well, you know why? Because he knows all about it. And well, in this case, it's about grooming. Definitely with Bieber, definitely with Usher. Who knows who else there is? There's definitely, I'm sure there's more. But yeah, it's quite interesting, these patterns. He's been doing this shit for like 20, 30 years. Yeah, well, when Cassie's on the stand, well, I think that's gonna say it all right there. It's gonna be so damning, and you name it. And well, this is gonna be the biggest trial since who even knows? It's been a minute for sure. Maybe bigger than OJ, probably. This guy makes Epstein look like less of a piece of shit. Of course, Epstein's a piece of shit, but I mean, Diddy's on this whole different level here. Makes R. Kelly seem like a decent guy, right? Like what? And then Bill Cosby, like, oh my God, because Diddy, holy shit, man, when he's doing it big, he really did it big, and he's gonna pay a price. There's no way he's getting out. If he does, that's insanity. There's no way. But anyways, that's about all I got to say. Leave your thoughts on Mr. Diddy, in the comments there. Did he do it, right? Of course he did it. There's no question about it. But yeah, like and subscribe for more content, and take care.